This is episode 3 of She Doesn't Know, where I talk about neuroscience, creative obsession, and a few questions for God. And everybody's been talking about Elon Musk's Neuralink. So what is the Neuralink? Neuralink is Elon Musk's brain-computer interface company. It's basically developing an implant that allows people to control devices directly with their thoughts. Translates brain signals into digital commands, which has already been enabled in paralyzed patients to move cursors, type, and even play games by thought alone. In the long term, the Neuralink basically aims to restore lung functions like vision, movement, and potentially enhance memory and cognition. While the technology offers life-changing possibilities for people with disabilities, it also raises questions and concerns about safety, privacy of brain data, and the ethics of merging human thought with machines. In short, the Neuralink could transform how humans interact with technology, but its impact will depend on how responsibly it's developed and used. An interesting thing is that neuroscience shows that many creative breakthroughs come from non-linear brain processes. So we already talked about theta waves, daydreaming, subconscious incubation. Neuralink leans heavily on optimizing conscious control. So typing faster, moving cursor with thoughts, it risks over-prioritizing efficiency and reducing messy, unpredictable states where creativity thrives. But the issue with this is that creativity is abstract. It is thoughtless and messy and over the top, and it has a personality. Machines and technology, how much ever we can execute with AI, does not have a soul, it does not have a purpose, and it's not quite driven by intuitive thoughts. So as a result, everything kind of morphs into the same thing, which genuinely concerns me as a creative person because I don't want to see the same kind of art and I don't want to see perfection in textures of human faces. And I think anybody who is a creative or an artist can tell that, that's an AI visual. Now you can argue that most average people, like masses, would not be able to differentiate between AI and a picture drawn by an actual human or photographed by a real person because normal people cannot differentiate art from technology or whatever you want to call it. But I actually think that that's even more concerning. And in fact, we shouldn't be advocating for that at all. I'm not against using AI. I think AI is helpful in many ways. It allows creatives to express themselves and be their own creative director. So if I have an idea as a creative person, which maybe I don't have the medium or mode to execute, I can now use AI to take my ideas and turn them into reality, which I think is amazing. And I actually do this a lot. I am someone who heavily uses AI, and I use Midjourney for a lot of creative work. And I do it in mixed media style. So I will draw out artwork, or I will draw out something on Procreate, and then I will put it in Midjourney and experiment with it. Because now Midjourney has access to my art style, so I can recreate many different artworks in that particular style, which is mine. And now what artists need to start doing is trademarking their work. Because if you don't trademark your style or your artwork, which I know that people cannot technically do right now, but that is going to come into play because your identity becomes your asset. And that's what's going to happen in the future, because how else do we differentiate people? If everybody kind of morphs into the same thinking pattern because everybody starts using AI a certain way, and skills become unimportant because anything can be executed, then what is left is a person's individuality and their soul. And people have to start looking inwards rather than outwards, which means we are slowly shifting into a space that is more spiritual, more introspective, more deep. And that's exactly what is going to happen. I mean, the world is going to split into two parts. One that is heavily reliant on technology and uses of AI and super intelligence, and the other which is very grounded in reality and spirituality and internal. So I think it's very interesting, and it could end up as a good thing or a bad thing. But either way, I want to explore both sides of it because I know the benefits of AI, because we use it pretty heavily in business to do sales automation, to send out emails. My work on a day-to-day is just so much easier. I hate looking at Excel sheets and then, analyzing them. I just put it in AI and I just do all the analytics through that. I don't really need to use my brain for overly analytical things, which I actually hate doing because deep down, I'm a very creative person. I like abstract things. I like expressing myself. And that's the only thing that technology or AI will never be able to replace. That is my identity, and that's what is my differentiator. So people need to start building their differentiator. And if they want to survive in the future, it's going to be imperative for them to craft a self-image, a personal brand, something where they have a unique asset to offer to the world. If thought to action becomes digitized and systemized, creativity may get shaped by the limitations of the interface. For example, Neuralink might prioritize clarity of signals. So this is logical, structured thoughts over fuzzy associative thinking, which is exactly where creative leaps emerge. Creativity is valuable precisely because it's unpredictable. A device that demands structure could possibly flatten it. And that is actually a great thing for creative people in the future. Neuralink could empower new forms of creativity. Say, imagine artists painting directly with their thoughts or musicians composing through neural impulses, but it also risks narrowing, commodifying, or even harvesting creativity in a way that strips it of its messiness or its human essence. Creativity isn't just about the output. It's about the process, the play, the meaning, the adventure of it all, basically, the behind the scenes, the whole BTS. That's all gone with this. And that's the part Neuralink is going to struggle with. And it just won't be able to replicate that feeling. And I'm afraid that even with putting out amazing content, people are somewhere deep down still going to feel pretty hollow. They're going to feel like they created something without the process. And the process is the best part. And you have the results right in front of you. I can only imagine how empty that would make an artist feel. As a society, we've kind of been developed and trained to be controlled, and AI is just one of those other things that are going to control us further. And it already is. I mean, people have stopped reading or thinking for themselves, creating on their own without the dependency of AI, which was essentially supposed to help you and make your work easier, but easy isn't always the best thing. I honestly think that the school system doesn't want us to learn about money because they just want to pump out good employees who do what they're told. If you look at school, it's basically the opposite of what it takes to be successful in real life. Don't make mistakes, do as you're told, take tests by yourself, don't collaborate. And there's only one right answer. No, actually there isn't. There isn't one right answer. There's a lot of right answers and a lot of pathways to life. You don't have to just pick one. So you come out of school with the idea that there is no room for mistakes. You can't cooperate or brainstorm because there's no synergy, and ultimately it crushes your spirit to build a brand for yourself, especially if you are a creative person. And this has to change. I mean, this is something that has been instilled and rewired into people's brains for a very long time. It's only recently that people have started advocating for themselves, building for themselves, going on and starting their own ventures. People have realized that, this corporate slavery thing, it's not working for us anymore, because now we have so much access to tools and automation and AI and other creative methods of making money and monetization that we don't really need to go out and work for somebody else. That's not necessarily a bad thing for the future, because the world is getting to a point where we just need to start being collaborative. So instead of, hiring an employee who works under you, who comes at, 9 and then leaves at 8, that just isn't what we are supposed to be doing. We need to be working collaboratively as teams. Yes, if now today I want to build something of my own, go into my own business venture, instead of me going out and looking for employees to work under me and turn them into my corporate slaves, I'm going to want to collaborate with other like-minded entrepreneurs who have their own vision but want to collaborate and pitch into mine. And together, where my weaknesses lie, they pitch in. Where their weaknesses are, I help them out over there. And together, you build a team that is long-lasting, where you're not hiring people because they just want a job and just to make their ends meet and just want money and then to say fuck you and then leave. We don't want that. That's not the kind of environment that is going to be suitable 10 to 15 years from now. Things are going to rapidly change because of technology. I know I talk a lot about neuroscience, I talk about the Neuralink and creativity and what that means for us in the future, but there are a lot of scary things to address here. At first glance, the Neuralink, it pretty much looks like a miracle, right? A brain chip that promises to restore lost functions, connect humans directly to machines, and pretty much upgrade our cognition. But beneath all of this hype, there's a deeper question. What happens to the human brain when we outsource its power to a device? The human brain grows stronger through effort, solving problems, failing, testing, and trying. Just like muscles, neural pathways strengthen with how much you use them. But if the Neuralink is just going to give us the shortcut, an instant recall, instant execution, everything becomes short-term, easy to execute, we risk losing the very process that makes creativity, learning, resilience meaningful. Neuroscience shows that our brains are highly plastic. They adapt, rewire, and regenerate through constant use and training. Activities like meditation, learning new skills, memory exercises help stimulate new pathways in our brains. So relying on a chip to do all the work might actually reduce the brain's natural adaptability over time. Finally, the biggest issue here is dependency. Once we rely on technology to think for us, it's pretty difficult to go back. What happens when it glitches or it gets hacked or becomes commercialized? You become the product. And do we really want to commodify ourselves? Are we becoming less and less human over time? Do we risk turning human thoughts into softwares owned by corporations? This is a really, really scary reality, And I want people to really introspect and think about this. What are we really doing to ourselves? What are we doing to our minds? And I think the biggest question of all of them is that why are we still not acknowledging? Finally, the biggest issue here is dependency. Once we rely on technology to think for us, it's pretty difficult to go back. What happens when it glitches or it gets hacked or becomes commercialized? You become the product. And do we really want to commodify ourselves? Are we becoming less and less human over time? Do we risk turning human thoughts into softwares owned by corporations? This is a really, really scary reality, and I want people to really introspect and think about this. What are we really doing to ourselves? What are we doing to our minds? And I think the biggest question of all of them is that why are we still not acknowledging? So the real evolution, in my opinion, isn't going to come from wiring chips into our skulls. It is going to come, however, through realizing just how powerful the human brain really is. And you just need a little bit of insight and learning and exercise to open up those gateways and create a world that never existed for yourself. You really don't need an external software or chip to be integrated to make your life easier. People just need to get more spiritual. And I'm going to link this episode 3 and continue forward with it in episode 4. Because this is a very massive topic and it's going to go on forever. But in episode 4, I'm going to dive deeper into a few spiritual issues that are going to come up in the next 10 years. They've been predicted by a lot of different people, and I will give you insight on how to battle it. Before the time comes, I want to make sure that you care about yourself enough to be that 2%, 3% that is going to survive the technological warfare. So the real evolution, in my opinion, isn't going to come from wiring chips into our skulls. It is going to come, however, through realizing just how powerful the human brain really is. And you just need a little bit of insight and learning and exercise to open up those gateways and create a world that never existed for yourself. You really don't need an external software or chip to be integrated to make your life easier. People just need to get more spiritual. And I'm going to link this episode 3 and continue forward with it in episode 4. Because this is a very massive topic and it's going to go on forever. But in episode 4, I'm going to dive deeper into a few spiritual issues that are going to come up in the next 10 years. They've been predicted by a lot of different people. Before the time comes, I want to make sure that you care about yourself enough to be that 2%, 3% that is going to survive the technological warfare. So thank you guys for watching and sharing and liking my podcast. I know it's a very small podcast, but I'm going to grow it over time. This is just a space for me to discuss my theories, my research, and share my knowledge because I know it's rare and I know it's controversial. And some of it you might suspect to be conspiracy theories. But I have a knack for linking topics, doing deep dive research, and understanding people in general and how the human brain works. So with my skills, the best I can do is share them and help people get deeper insight into these topics. So if you like this one, please share it around with your friends. Talk to me about it. Let's have a discussion. And I will see you in episode 4.